Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast on a Tuesday afternoon, a New Year's Eve edition of the PHLY Eagles podcast presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. At Bet365, if you're looking at the screen left to right, you got Bo Wulf, you got Fran Duffy, you got Zach Berman, all here to talk about the Eagles. How's everybody doing? Ready to ring in the new year?
I'm doing well. Okay.
Sorry. Well, when you do the remote, I got to call on you guys. I can't.
I got you. No problem.
Like that. That's bad hosting. Fran, go ahead. Is he frozen?
Of course, my connection's already breaking up, so we're off to a roaring start here on the show.
Beautiful. Zach, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for the show. Eager to hear Fran's thoughts. It's New Year's Eve. We got Penn State, Boise State tonight. We got college football throughout the day. We got multiple games coming up in the next few days, big games. And then you got the Eagles in the news. I got a story I'm working on. We got a lot of fun stuff going on. So this is the most wonderful time of the year.
And we know that tonight is a big night in the Berman household. Longtime sickos will know that tonight is the night that roundabout 11:59, a few seconds after that, Zach is going to wake up his poor wife, poke her, say, hey, let's make this the best year yet.
We've already discussed New Year's resolutions. We've already discussed highlights from 2024. And yeah, I have been saying, let's make this the best year yet. That needs to be the objective.
And the question is, how did you do in 2024? Was this the best year yet?
2024 was not the best year yet, but it was. I think there was some learning experiences, and yeah, it was a good year. But I'm excited for what's ahead.
So what's the bar? What's the bar to clear? What was the best year yet?
I want to hear about the film. The best year, yeah, the best year gets the next one. The best year gets the next one.
Oh, come on! You gotta.
One can never forget the creative heater of 2022.
No,
2020. No, yeah, 2019 was the creative.
2019
was the creative heater. 2022 was strong though. 2022 was strong. 2019 was the creative heater.
Interesting. All right, so Fran, what are your plans this evening?
We're gonna hang out at home. Meg is starting she's doing like a braised short rib and like a red wine. Like she's starting here in a little bit. So so it's gonna be a
bad boy low and slow for a few hours.
That's gonna be a good dinner. We'll watch some movies. We'll play some games. Our tradition, like when we were growing up, was we would always like play like board games and stuff all up until midnight. And so we're gonna try and carry that through. We'll have Penn State, Boise State on obviously, and it'll be fun.
Is Francis gonna make it to midnight?
We've talked about it. We'll see. We'll see if he's going to make it.
Wow.
That's the plan, though.
Okay, good for him. All right.
Wait. We should talk about Bo here for a second. Yeah. Bo is having a Costanza evening, a Costanza family evening.
How so?
You don't remember Mrs. Costanza saying, "What am I going to do with all this paella?" You were making paella.
Yes, I'm going to make some paella tonight for the family. That's our plan. I wouldn't call it a Costanza evening, but
when you think of paella, do you think of Mrs. Costanza saying, "What are we going to do with all this paella?"
Clearly, I do not.
Okay, well, I think of that, and
I thought there were going to be like feats of strength or something involved.
Yeah,
that's Mr. Costanza. That's Frank Costanza. Yes.
Oh, okay. Spoken like a true Michael Scott.
No, not at all. But
all right.
Let's keep rolling.
All right, let's get to the Eagles before we get to the film from the game, Fran. And I don't think we need to dissect this bad boy quite as deeply as we might other games. But let's get to the news first. Zach, what is going on in Eagles world? What can you tell us?
CJ Gardner-Johnson won NFC Defensive Player of the Week. It's the first time in his career that he's won such an award. The previous Eagles safeties to win it are, Brian Dawkins 3 times, Malcolm Jenkins twice, Kurt Coleman, and Wes Hopkins. I hope I'm not leaving somebody out there. Elsewhere,
big Kurt Coleman hit on the bingo card.
Yeah, he that 3 interception game or 4 interception game? Yeah, against Washington.
Yep.
Elsewhere, if you're into jerseys, which I know Professor Selman is, he keeps the stats. The Eagles are going all black on Sunday. They're closing out the year, bringing in the year, however you want to look at it, in their black uniforms. There's no update on whether Nick Sirianni will play the starters or will play some of the starters, because I think, as Vic Fangio said, and this is important to note too, and I heard actually, Jim Harbaugh and Bill discussing this as well. There is kind of this misconception sometimes this time of year when you can't sit everybody, right? You can only have 7 guys inactive, with the 2 practice squad elevations. So you can't sit everybody. So it's determining who's playing, who's not playing. Anyways, Nick Sirianni says he has not made that decision. He said that in that press conference yesterday. He said it on WIP today. The team, the players were not in yesterday. The players are not in today. Players are going to be in tomorrow. So I imagine Nick will, and with them, we'll let you know if he addresses it with us. He speaks around noon tomorrow, so we'll get an update then.
It's actually kind of a fun problem to solve. If like the gaming of it, of the roster, who can play, who cannot play. If let's just presume that they're going to sit everybody, they're not going to try to win, right? They're going to just sit whoever they can sit. On defense, you're going to sit Jalen Carter. You're probably going to sit Milton Williams.
You think?
I mean, he might have to dress.
Yeah,
but he's not going to.
Right.
You're going to lean on Booker and Ajuma as the every down defensive tackles. On the edge, like Sweat probably sits just because he's the guy on a pitch count. But Nolan Smith and
Bryce Huff,
are going to have to dress, and then Bryce Huff will play, and that's probably where they would elevate a guy. I would think they would use one of the elevations on an edge player.
Yeah,
there are enough backup linebackers to get through. You play, it could be just Trotter and Burks or whoever. There's enough guys on the outside and at the cornerback spot to play. Safety, I guess we have to sit Sidney Brown should be fine. So you would want to get Sidney Brown a game, probably next to McCollum, and Maddox can be the safety. So you're okay on defense. And on offense, they have enough offensive linemen to get it through, but some of those guys will have to dress even as backups.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at an offense of Johnny Wilson, Anaya Smith, and Jahan Dotson. Yes.
Unless you use, again, first off, they need Will Shipley to clear concussion protocol, for Will Shipley's health, but also for the numbers here. I think this is also, if you kind of wanted to put the numbers together, I think this is partly why they put Ian Book on the 53-man roster last week, was anticipating not just the week 16 game, the week 17 game, but the week 18 game as well, right? Because you don't want to elevate him 2 weeks in a row. You're going to need that elevation. I think they were planning on beating the Cowboys in Ian Book's case, because
you don't need to preserve Ian Book's elevations. I think they did it because this allows you to get 3 guys up.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you would have had to elevate him. Right. So
but it wasn't about preserving his elevation. It was about being able
preserving the elevations.
Got it.
Preserving the elevations, putting him on the 53 for that reason. If Will Shipley's healthy, you'll see a lot of Shipley, a lot of Gainwell, you'll see Gainwell, Shipley. They're obviously fine at tight end. It's also why they won't bring in or they won't bring up Dallas Goedert this week. It wouldn't surprise me if they start Dallas Goedert's practice window, but they're not going to sign him to the 53 yet because they need those roster spots.
And then, do you presume it'll be our cover boy getting the start? They're not going to play Pickett with these busted ribs, right?
Well, yeah, I got to think that Pickett's injury is enough that it'll be McKee and Book, and my guess is Pickett will be the third quarterback. Will be the emergency quarterback. Will be inactive as the emergency quarterback.
That would make sense. Now, of course, this is under the idea that they're going to sit everybody, which we do not know yet. Do you think that we will find out tomorrow, Zach? Do you think Nick will come clean, or do you think he'll give you a Jake Elliott kickoff answer?
I got to say, Nick doesn't even tell you who's playing in the preseason games. So, a third preseason game, he's like, we'll see. So I would hope. I mean, Sean McVay was pretty clear about it today. I think that first off, it's hard to keep it quiet. Imagine the players are going to be informed, number one, but there's such intrigue here in this specific case about Saquon Barkley. it is a rare circumstance. I think this is a situation where it's not competitive advantage. Like, we understand, Nick, that there are certain players who are going to have to dress who might not need to play, but they'll need to go in emergency situations. You can only have X amount of players inactive. We get all that, So I think you should come out and say Saquon's not playing, AJ's not playing, Lane's not playing, Jalen's not playing, Jalen Carter's not playing, and we'll see about everyone. We'll see about some other guys. Right? He should at least be clear about Saquon. I think it's a disservice to the general public if you leave the Saquon thing up in the air.
What are you smiling at, Fran?
Just the gravity of it being a disservice to the entire population.
Although I gotta think, like, sports talk radio probably doesn't want him to say. I mean, it's the more they can keep this debate up, this is just free content all week long.
It's like there's not telling the world about whether Saquon Barkley is going to play or not, and then like trying to get rid of the measles vaccine. Like, both equally.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
All right, let's get to the film review, Fran. I know that you've been working hard. We got the story on allphly.com for the diehards. A good overview of the big takeaways from this game for you. Let's just start there. Big takeaway. What was the most interesting thing to you that maybe you weren't expecting or was extra interesting after what you thought you saw live and then you watched the film?
Yeah, I mean, I was most interested to see what the run game looked like. We talked at halftime of the game during the watch along that, hey, you know what? Like, Saquon Barkley only has 40 rushing yards. It's more the same of what we saw on the back end of the loss against Washington, where they're just not hitting those big gains, those chunk gains that we've come to expect from this rushing attack and from this offense. So what changed in the second half? And so I was flabbergasted by Mike Zimmer's approach in the second half of this game, where the Eagles come out and they're playing heavy personnel. You've got Tanner McKee in. You're trying to get Saquon Barkley to the record. You're ahead in the game. Very clearly, like, the Eagles are trying to milk this clock, get out of the game, like, run the football. And the Cowboys were like, yeah, we're just gonna play nickel. We're gonna have 5 DBs on the field. We're not gonna adjust to anything you guys are doing offensively. They would have 6 offensive linemen on the field, and you'd still have like Jordan Lewis down, like, lined up across from Tyler Steen. Like, it was honestly like wild that was the approach there in that game. For one, what I would assume that Dallas is going in, like, with the way that they've played, that they're trying to compete, they're trying to win the game. They were perfectly fine with the Eagles going down the field, and marching the football with the run game. I mean, Tanner McKee threw 4 passes in this game, and he played the majority of the second half. The Eagles were fine just turning around and handing the ball off to Saquon, to Gainwell, and then eventually to TDP.
Each one of them a dot.
Almost each one, but he was Tanner McKee. We'll get into some of the things we saw from him as well. But that was honestly the biggest thing I wanted to see was, what did the execution look like up front? I think in the first half you saw some of the same issues that plagued them in the Washington game, where some blown blocks from the tight end. Mekhi Becton has looked just okay in the run game these last couple of weeks. But then as you got into the second half, I think they kind of wore them down, and they were able to get some of those chunk gains.
Now, obviously, I noticed this when you broke down the play that Saquon had to top 2,000, the blocking that was done on that play, including by EJ Jenkins. So I'm curious, Fran, would you trust moving forward EJ Jenkins as a better blocker than CJ Uzomah?
As was pointed out by DFOP Keith on Blue Sky, EJ Jenkins managed to block somebody on that play without actually making contact, which was really he threw the shoulder.
I mean, what's better than that?
Saving his body for future blocks. Yeah. It was an outstanding savvy move there from EJ Jenkins. But I think at the end of the day, getting Dallas Goedert back into the lineup. And I know that we've been asked a lot on Twitter. Zach, I don't know if you've got any insight there. If they're definitely expecting Dallas back, obviously it won't be for this week. Yeah. They have no reason to activate him now. But for wild card week, you envision 88 back in the lineup?
It would surprise me if he's not back out there wild card week. Yeah. Yes. If we can move on from Saquon here, I know that there's a lot of excitement.
Is that the first time you said that all year?
That is the first time I've said that all year. Yes, I mean, trust me. It pains me to say that because we could do an entire Saquon show.
Let's get back to New Year's resolutions.
There's some fun Saquon content coming up on allphly.com. But I know there's going to be a lot of Tanner McKee questions. Before we get there, we should know Kenny Pickett started the game, played the majority of the game. And there were two plays that I was particularly curious about your perspective on. One I know the Discord wanted to know about, which was the Grant Calcaterra play, which Kellen Moore was especially effusive in his praise about today. But also the Devontae Smith touchdown, which I thought was both a good play by Kenny Pickett and a good play for Kellen Moore.
Yeah, well,
and better for Kenny Gainwell.
Well, let's start with the Calcaterra catch, just because I feel like that was the play that kind of got things rolling for Kenny Pickett. And Brenna, we'll go with Grant catch number one for the screen grab there. Mortal Wombat, by the way, outstanding username there from the Discord, asked for this play specifically. And look, at the end of the day, like, this was a scramble drill play. Kenny Pickett rolling out of his to his right, rolling out of the pocket, outside of structure, finding Calcaterra down the field. But what really stood out to me in this play was the pass protection. And I thought that the execution really up front the entire game. Look, minimal pass attempts, so that was part of it. But even on the pure dropbacks in this game, I thought the pass protection really held up well. I thought Calcaterra did a nice job in pass pro, and the running backs were outstanding against those Mike Zimmer pressures. And this was a really good example of that. There were a lot of layers to it. So what you see here on this play, it's 3rd and long, and Dallas slides Micah Parsons inside. He's standing up over Cam Jurgens. You could see over to Parsons' left to our right. Number 24 there, Israel Mukuamu. He's lined up over Lane Johnson. He's a big nickel, like, backup safety for them. So it looks like it's going to be a pressure look to the right. And so, Brenna, if you go to the next shot, Cam Jurgens, they're going to slide over to the right side. And so it's going to be a 3-man slide there. So Jurgens, Becton, Lane Johnson, they're sliding in the direction of Parsons and Mukuamu. Now, unfortunately for the Eagles and unfortunately for Pickett, their blitz is not coming from that direction. They're blitzing actually from the opposite way. And so, all right, the pressure wins, the really well-disguised pressure there from the Dallas Cowboys. Where the blitzes actually come, Brenna, if you go to the next shot, is going to be from the linebacker, from Eric Kendricks, and then also from the DB, Donovan Wilson, off the left side. And so if you've got the 3-man slide going away, you do the simple math. You got Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, and Saquon Barkley to take on 4 Dallas Cowboys. And so the numbers are in the advantage right now for Dallas. But if you go to the next shot, Brenna, you can see opposite the slide, you've got Saquon Barkley man-to-man. He's got eyes on Eric Kendricks. That's the most dangerous threat because you've got the 2 offensive linemen there, Mailata and Dickerson. They're handling the 2 defensive linemen. So it'll be up to Saquon Barkley to pick up this linebacker, and it'll be up to Kenny Pickett. He's got to make sure the ball gets out before Donovan Wilson, the safety, comes clean off the edge. Brenna, if you go to the next shot, Cam Jurgens does a great job here of what's called looking for work. Once his guy, Micah Parsons, leaves and bails out into coverage, Jurgens instinctively knows, all right, well, if the blitz isn't coming from this way, I've got to get my eyes back the other direction. And so he instantly gets his eyes back the other way. And Dallas, because they're blitzing guys from the second level, they are doing a slant on the inside. And so Dickerson, he does a great job. Brenna, if you go to the next shot, Dickerson passes off his man to Jurgens. Jurgens has his eyes in the right spot, and so that pass off goes well. Now Dickerson, since he's passing off the D tackle, Brenna, if you go to the next shot, he now picks up Eric Kendricks. And so he gets his eyes on Eric Kendricks. Now, this would be a situation where, oh man, like Saquon Barkley and Dickerson, they're going to block the same guy, and the DB is going to come in clean, except Barkley does an outstanding job. Brenna, if you go to the next shot, Barkley does a great job of picking up the extra blitzer. And you can see that the how quickly those guys deciphered what Dallas was doing. The execution was outstanding. This is a really clean pocket here for Kenny Pickett. And look, Pickett got a little bit skittish, I think, by the fact that he knew he was fooled by the blitz and that there was probably an extra body coming. He was a little bit quick to bail here, and he ends up rolling to his right. And he finds Calcaterra down the field. Brenna, if you go to the final shot, this was an outstanding catch from Calcaterra, falling down to the ground, one-handed, leaping catch. He had a great celebration after the play as well, but really good execution from the entire offensive front, from the entire protection scheme there on that play, and it turned into an explosive play down the field for Calcaterra.
Well, let the record state that I told you Calcaterra was going to be more involved this week.
Okay. I don't know if this is Bo's Wi-Fi or this is just classic Bo.
Anyway.
Yes, and
that play was sort of, described after the game as like the play that got them going. That's how Kellen Moore described it today. Did you feel like that? I mean, that was the first positive play they had.
Yeah, I mean, it was 3 and out the previous 2 drives. And so, look, I think when you look at Kenny Pickett and Zach, you talked about how they wanted to create some, high probability throws, get the ball out fast. The problem is that Pickett, like he is, and we talked about this post game, he is more similar to Jalen Hurts in terms of play style. He is not like a within structure, get the ball out. Like naturally, that's not the way that he likes to play. He is much closer to Jalen in terms of he wants to kind of run around. He wants to hold on to the football and scramble and find something downfield. He's more of a big game hunter in that way. And so, it is you kind of have to force the issue if you want him to play that way. And I thought that this play really kind of served as a spark plug for them. And then there was a couple plays later when he found DeVonta Smith on the touchdown. Brenna, we can do that one next. It's the Smith Bash 1. It's Bash because that's the name of this concept here for at least how I know it in terms of what they're running. But basically what you have here.
New Year's Bash.
Yes, there's a good timing there on that one. But so, Brenna, this will be Smith Bash 1. And basically what you're going to get on this play is 11 personnel. So you've got 1 running back, 1 tight end on the field, 3 receivers all to the left side of the formation. And basically it's a 3-man route concept to that side where you're going to have 2 quick in-breaking routes on the outside. And then you have DeVonta Smith lined up in the slot running a deep corner route. And so on this play, it looks like it's going to be man-to-man coverage early on just by the pre-snap look. There's no safety deep in the middle of the field. You've got a pressure look. Dallas is sugaring the A-gaps here on this play. And so right off the bat, Kenny Pickett knows, like, all right, I'm going to get man-to-man coverage here on this play. And so that immediately should be a signal that he's going to have DeVonta Smith. As long as he has time to deliver this throw, he should have DeVonta deep down the field. And what I love here on this play, and we talked about this briefly in postgame, Bo, was that I thought Jamie, I was glad that he brought it up because I had forgotten about it. And he had brought this up as we talked about it in postgame. The pass protection from Kenny Gainwell on that play, because it was that double A gap look where you've got those 2 linebackers. We talked about this so often last week against Washington, the issues that the Eagles had in picking up some of those blitzes. Well, it comes on the center and the running back to make those plays. Kenny Gainwell did a great job of blocking not just 1, but 2 guys on that play. He and Juergens did a great job of passing off a stunt, kind of a cross dog pressure there between those 2 linebackers. So Gainwell steps up. He hits the guy, the first player that was Kendricks kind of pinning inside, and then he picked up the looping linebacker on the backside of it, kept the pocket really clean. Pickett did a great job of stepping up against edge pressure and then delivering that down the field. And he just threw to DeVonta, who beat man-to-man coverage. So this was a couple plays after the Calcaterra play. It was another 3rd and long. So good execution there on 3rd down against a pressure look. And the Eagles come away with a touchdown against man-to-man coverage.
How good is Fran?
Yeah,
he's outstanding.
All right, we can move on.
All right, let's move on with a word from our sponsors. You know who else is good? And it'll blow you away with how good they are? The good folks at Rothman Ortho. If your joints are aching or your hands are cramping or your back is out of whack, Rothman's got you. At Rothman Orthopedics, practicing specialized care has been their passion for over 50 years. Their mission? High quality, compassionate, and affordable care rooted in research. Research leading to new treatments and better outcomes. Each Rothman doc is laser focused on their specialty, be it hip, knee, spine, you name it. They have a team for each body part right in your backyard so you can cross over the defense, drain those jump shots, and root for your teams like no other fans in the country. They're Rothman Orthopedics, and they specialize in you. Rothman's 200-plus fellowship-trained physicians subspecialize in specific areas of the body and a multitude of orthopedic services, including hip, knee, spine, shoulder and elbow, foot and ankle, hand and wrist, sports medicine, physical medicine, and rehabilitation, orthopedic oncology, and trauma and fracture care. Year over year, Rothman consistently performs among the highest volume of hip, knee, shoulder, and ankle replacements in the country, over 60,000. And for more than 50 years, Rothman has participated in thousands of groundbreaking research and clinical trials with the goal of advancing knowledge, developing treatments, and improving outcomes for the benefit of their patients. Rothman Orthopedics, specialized in orthopedics and you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make an appointment today. That's ROTHMANORTHO.com/PHLY.
It is the Fiesta Bowl tonight, and Boise State is in the Fiesta Bowl. And when I think of Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl, one of the things that comes to mind is Ian Johnson getting down on one knee and proposing to his future wife.
What a hook. What a hook.
And if Ian Johnson was in Philadelphia, I know where he would have gotten his engagement ring. He would have gone to Golden Nugget Jewelers. He would have gone right there on 8th and Chestnut in downtown Philly, because this is where Philly gets engaged. It's family owned and operated since 1987. They have a wide assortment of rings and wedding bands to fit anyone's style. Receive a final cleaning and written appraisal with every engagement ring. And I keep talking about getting engaged. I certainly don't want to, alienate or not include anyone who's either not in the market to get engaged or is already married or engaged, and you're just looking for a nice present. You can find watches, diamond necklaces, diamond bracelets, earrings, and more. It's not just wedding jewelry at Golden Nugget Jewelers. You deserve an expert and the best price. Golden Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. Head over to goldennuggetjewelers.com to learn more.
It looks to me on Wikipedia, Ian Johnson and his fiance is still together all these years later.
That is awesome. That's exactly what I love to see.
Okay. All right, Fran. Let's move on here. Do you want to talk about the AJ touchdown from Pickett as the last player, or do you want to get into the DeVonta play?
No, let's do the AJ play, just because I think it does kind of go off of that DeVonta touchdown. This one was the first touchdown for Tanner McKee, so a legendary play in its own right, obviously. But what I liked about the DeVonta Smith touchdown was, again, the pre-snap. The quarterback, Kenny Pickett, he's got a good idea that's going to be man coverage. I thought the Eagles did a good job of identifying man-to-man coverage early on in this game and a lot of these passes. That was one of my notes. I know going into the first Cowboys game back in week 10, early on in the season, this Cowboys secondary had given up so many explosives down the field, and you could tell that teams just got them into man-to-man coverage and exploited them, just took advantage of those matchups. And it wasn't, I put the notes, some of the numbers in my piece that's up on allphly.com, but Dallas over the course of the season, they've been middle of the road, 14th, 15th, 16th in terms of how often they play man-to-man, but they're in the bottom 6, bottom 7 in terms of explosive plays allowed, touchdowns allowed, completion percentage allowed. When they've been in man-to-man, they have not been a good man-to-man coverage team, which that was their identity under Dan Quinn for a long time. But here this year, whether you have injuries, loss of depth, there's a lot of different factors there. This team just has not been able to hang in man-to-man coverage situations. And this was another good example. Brenna, if you want to pull up AJTD1,
the Eagles come out. This, Fran, sorry to cut you off, but if we're going to talk about McKee here, let's do it through the prism of the Ace Hardware temperature check. Because as Tanner McKee is heating up, it's time for our Ace Hardware temperature check. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at www.acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project. Away you go.
Well, we might have to do a Bo Wulf temperature check as this play unfolds.
I mean, I am sweating over here. There's no doubt about it.
At least you're in the comfort of your own home. When you're looking at the Eagles here, they come out in that empty set, and we know, we're talking about empty over the course of the year. One of the big positives you get from playing in empty, which means that the quarterback is by himself in the backfield, is that you can get some coverage identification by, in terms of how you deploy your pass catchers. That's Kenny Gainwell up at the top of the screen, and across from him is a linebacker. Brenna, if you go to the next shot, that's a linebacker, Maris Luafau, there across from him. So when Tanner McKee takes the snap, he knows, all right, it's man-to-man coverage, because if they were playing some kind of zone, if they're playing cover 3, if they're playing cover 4, that would be a corner out there across from the running back, not a linebacker. So the fact that it's a linebacker out wide immediately tells you it's man-to-man coverage. And so often when you get man-to-man, and Brenna, you can go to the next shot. One way, if you don't have like a route concept that is a good man-to-man beater, like that Bash play I showed you on the DeVonta Smith touchdown, another thing you do is you go to your best matchup or you go to your best players. And so you've got A.J. Brown one-on-one against Deron Bland running a slot fade where you're basically just going to throw this to the back shoulder. And there's plenty of room outside the numbers to be able to throw this. Brenna, if you go to the last shot, you could see that Tanner McKee just puts this on the back shoulder. Deron Bland's got no shot. He gets beat for the touchdown there. And then A.J. Brown chucks this up into section 110 that we discussed on the postgame.
Driscoll, our man.
Our guy comes through with the big catch there in the stands, and the rest is history. But an outstanding use of the empty sets to identify man-to-man coverage and then take advantage there for a touchdown here for Tanner McKee.
So it's half a bit, but I mean, I do believe it. I'm curious what you think, Fran, and he only made 4 throws and the game was out of hand. But how did you view the Tanner McKee experience vis-a-vis the Kenny Pickett experience? Who would you feel better as the backup heading into the playoffs?
I mean, honestly, I don't know that it matters like how I think, because I think it's going to be Pickett regardless. But sure, I think sure. I do. Look, it's a small sample. We will likely get a larger sample on Sunday. I think when you look at Tanner McKee versus Pickett over what we've seen over the larger sample, and it's still not a huge sample, but what we've seen in practice, what we saw in the preseason, I think that, again, Pickett is a certain type of quarterback. McKee is a little bit different. He's not going to give you as much creativity in the backfield, but he is going to get the ball out faster. I think the accuracy is a little bit better. I think the arm talent is probably a little bit better. So I would be excited to see what it would look like. Look, he'll be shorthanded if he is the starter here this week, and he's not going to have the full complement of weapons. But I'm excited to see him operate the offense. I think that he could do some good things back there, especially if they're going to lean into. We can play a little bit more under center. The ball's going to come out a little bit faster. It'll be a different feel for the offense, certainly, if he's going to be the guy at quarterback.
Part of the reason that I do believe McKee would be better off is because of the construction of this team, because you have A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith on the outside. If you don't have Jalen Hurts at quarterback and what he brings to the table as a playmaking quarterback, you want the guy who's going to get the ball out to those guys. And that's part of the reason that I really like Tanner McKee. He's so decisive to get the ball to those guys. And so, yeah, it may not look the same when he's throwing to Johnny Wilson and Jahan Dotson, but just for a small sample of him getting to play with A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith, it was nice to watch.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. No, go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I think that one thing that the coaches in the front office consider is your experience in big games and high leverage, or big moments, things like that. Not just as Tanner McKee never started in the NFL, not just was that his first snap. Tanner McKee's never played in a bowl game before. Tanner McKee's never played in meaningful. No, he's never played in meaningful November football before. I'm serious. In college, he never had a win past October 22nd. So I think that there's
you've been doing Oppo research on Tanner McKee.
Is that a real stat?
No. Yeah, that's a real stat. I mean, this is one of the reason why Tanner McKee. The reason why Tanner McKee was available late in the draft with the amount of talent that he had is that he was not on a particularly good college team, that the college film was inconsistent. And I think that I think that there's, say what you want about Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett has started games in the NFL. He started meaningful games in the NFL. And I think that is something that factors into their thinking. I believe they'll go into next season with Tanner McKee as the backup quarterback, but I don't believe they would make this change in the postseason.
Yeah, I know. Of course, I don't think they're going to change it midway through based on.
But that's how you framed the question. I was answering the question. Yeah.
You weren't answering the question. You were just trying to shove dirt on a guy.
I'm
asking what he said. I'm not saying, do you think they're going to change it midway through? Of course, they're not going to do that. We know how stubborn coaches are. But I'm asking Fran, now that he's seen them both play, what would he do?
Fran's answer to your question literally was, it's not worth discussing because they're not going to do it, right? So
it's so consistent with the entire worldview of well, if he's never done it before, he can't be trusted to do it. Well, this guy's a first round pick. You got to go for him. You think outside the box.
That is such conflation right there that it's not even worth justifying that response.
Never played in a bowl game. Give me a break.
I think, look, when you look at what you would want McKee to be in this offense if he were pressed into duty, to your point, Bo, like you want him to be like what Brock Purdy did early in his career. You want him to be what Jared Goff was early in his career, where you're going to point and shoot. The scheme is going to work for you. The talent is going to win out for you. Basically, don't mess it up. We're going to put you behind the wheel and don't mess it up. I do think he's capable of being that guy. I think that he has shown in small spurts over the course of his first 2 years that he is worthy of that trust. But obviously, time will tell.
All right, that'll close the book on the Ace Hardware temperature check. Anything else from the offense, Fran, before we move to the defense?
No, I think that's all the plays I pulled. So yeah, no, I think we're good to move to defense.
Zach, there were a couple interesting things from Vic Fangio in today's press conference about the defense. Specifically, Avonte Maddox admitting that he has leapfrogged as to be a number 3 safety.
Yeah, the way Vic Fangio framed it is that Avonte Maddox has shown good things in practice. I would think it's more Tristan McCollum didn't show enough good things in games. I got to think that's more what it was, that they just trust Avonte Maddox out there more. There was too much inconsistency from Tristan McCollum. He said, I actually thought it was an interesting answer regarding Oren Burks, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He said neither one has played a lot of snaps this season, number one, but they also both had their special teams duties. Like with Oren Burks starting, he wasn't going to be pulled back on special teams. So they thought it made sense to rotate them. He thought that he said Bryce Huff was rusty, but showed, hopefully something to build on going forward, as we've discussed that they need Bryce Huff. I asked like a layup question about how CJ Gardner-Johnson has grown or evolved throughout the year, and he was like, well, he definitely grew from last week by being on the field.
You realized what was more important.
Yeah. So he was it certainly seems that talking to that CJ Gardner-Johnson received came from Vic Fangio, or I would imagine came from Vic Fangio.
Well, it was interesting, Fran, because he also said that on both of those interceptions, CJ Gardner-Johnson was in the right place. He did not freelance. So tell us what you saw in the film.
Yeah, let's go to the first one, the pick 6, and we'll that'll be CJTD, Brenna. So we'll go CJTD. This is obviously the opening drive, and this actually comes off a question from MJ Logan 42 in the Discord. Become a diehard, so you can go into the Discord. And let me start with this part of it at this point. That the defense seems extremely beatable in the first couple drives, then locks down an opponent for the rest of the game. Obviously, that was not the case against Washington, but has been the case for most of this year. I'm gonna be honest. After going through some numbers,
it does feel true.
Well, I was going through their first 2 drives. I mean, they're 8th in EPA per play. They're 17th in success rate. They've had 32 drives, like in the first 2 drives. I was 16 games, so you have 32 drive sample. 7 touchdowns allowed. That's tied for 9th best. 11 total scoring drives. That's tied for 7th best. 4 turnovers. That's tied for 3rd most. Like, they've been pretty good on the first 2 drives as well. I think it's just because they've been so good afterwards that maybe it feels a little bit out of character when they do give up some yardage early on. But I didn't think it was like it's definitely not as dire, obviously, as the offensive slow starts, right? So I to me, like I didn't pick up on that as like a resounding theme.
Okay.
That said, the Cowboys are moving the football. They cross midfield. They're about into scoring range, and we get this pick 6 from CJ Gardner-Johnson. Now, the way that I described this on the postgame show, I was to me, like it looked like, okay, he passed it off. And let's go to the next shot here, Brenna, because I think you can get a good view of this from the end zone angle. You can see that CJ Gardner-Johnson's lined up across from the tight end, Jake Ferguson. Zach Bond is lined up inside of him. He's lined up inside the defensive end. And so the way I envisioned this was that, okay, Ferguson's going to run inside. Brenna, if you go to the next shot, Ferguson's going to run inside, and CJ Gardner-Johnson passes him off to Bond. Bond picks him up, and now CJ Gardner-Johnson replaces Bond as the hole player, and then he makes the interception. Or it could be like a version of in and out coverage. We talked about like the banjo coverage on the goal line that other teams can run, right? Where, okay, if Ferguson runs outside or vertical, I've got him. If he runs inside, Bond, you've got him. But as I'm watching this play over and over again, I said, okay, well, why does Bond do this? So go to the next clip here, Brenna. And right at the snap, Bond immediately goes to Ferguson, like doesn't wait for him to come to him, doesn't like, he's not reading the route. He immediately goes to step in front of Ferguson and play over him. So now I actually don't think that CJ was passing him off. I think that was a deliberate disguise there from Fangio and from the Eagles, where they weren't playing, straight like cover one man free, that they were playing cover one robber, where cover one robber is man-to-man coverage, where your second safety comes down to play in the middle of the field to rob the middle of the field from the quarterback. Now, last week against Tampa, we talked about how the Dallas did such a good job of defeating the Todd Bowles blitz, and Cooper Rush was really peppering the middle of the field. It was like the highest amount of middle of the field throws he had made over the course of this season. And so it would make sense that you'd play some robber coverage with a ball hawking safety like CJ Gardner-Johnson to take some of that away. They disguised it perfectly here. And then if you just go to the next shot here, Brenna, you could see that as Cooper Rush steps back to make this throw, he's thinking, okay, I'm going to make this throw in rhythm. CJ Gardner-Johnson's lined up over the tight end. He's going to go inside. The linebacker's not going to get into this throwing lane. I'm just going to whiz it right past his ear hole. But as Bond picks up the tight end, CJ Gardner-Johnson's right there, and it ends up being a pick six. So and this is why I always like, whenever we do the breakdowns on game day, I'm like, yeah, I want to see the film to confirm. And I still, honestly, like I'm not 100%, but I feel pretty good that this was a cover one robber look, and that it was a really well disguised coverage there from the Eagles, and it turned into a turnover. It was really good coaching.
So Jeff McClain did ask Vic about this play, and framed it was it robber? Was he just passing him off? And Vic said that he was passing him off, but like not in like a way that he was explaining the play. He would just he was just passing him off. So like, I don't know that he was telling.
Could go either way. Interesting. Yeah, I'll that'll be one that maybe I'll do some asking around on the back end and see if we can get an answer. But either way, like obviously a great play there, and it's a much needed play. Gets the Eagles on the board. And
the second interception is where you were convinced that he was in the wrong place, and even then, Fangio says he was not.
Yeah, and so this one I thought was interesting. Going back and watching, because look, this is. When you play the amount of too high and cover four base looks that the Eagles play, teams are going to they're going to call plays that are that attack those coverages, right? There's no perfect coverage. There are route concepts that are really good against certain coverage looks, and so over time we've seen that the teams are going to dial up similar types of plays to go against the Eagles. And so, Brenna, if you go to CJINT 1. This actually also goes with an interesting question from Josh Katz on the Discord, who said this is not a singular play, but more of a general theme. The Eagles have 12 picks this year. 10 of them come from the safeties, 0 from the corners. Is that just a weird quirk or something about Fangio's defense that encourages this? And I think that to a certain extent, like it's probably a little bit of both. It's the corners have had opportunities to pick some passes off, but I think he puts so much on these safeties for reasons that we've discussed. I mean, we've seen how often the safeties have been in really good position, Reed Blankenship, jumping routes and passing things off, and how tight coverage is. A lot is put on the nickel corner and on the safeties in this scheme. And so I do think it's a little bit of both. But as you can see here on this play, you've got a 3-level stretch where you're going to have a deep post from the outside, an intermediate kind of a sail route from the number 2 receiver, and then a flat route. And this is something that basically every NFL team runs versions of this play, but it's really good against multiple different zone coverage looks, but it can be really tricky for cover 4 teams because you're putting a lot on those safeties and on those middle of the field defenders to kind of pass things off and make sure everyone's in the right spot, or else you're putting stress on them and they can miss some of these plays. Brent, if you go to the next shot, the play that stood out to me, because I remember the Eagles made an interception on this, basically the same exact play concept. This is week 11 against Washington, where same kind of coverage look, same kind of route concept. This one was an interception from Reed Blankenship, where he steps in front of the intermediate route and picks it off. It was late in the game. Now, what happens in quarters coverage on this play? Brenna, if you go to the next shot, the corner on the outside, the corners are all going to play what is called outside leverage. So you're funneling everything into your help on the inside, and the safety. You've got 2 safeties there. That's your safety help. So that's why the corner is going to play that outside in. He's going to try and funnel it to the safeties. The sickos in the chat will remember the John Brown play, 2014, 2014 out in Arizona, right? John Brown late in the game, 2-minute drill,
Yes.
deep post over the top. That's what this play was, right? It's a deep post over the top. Kerry Williams passes off the John Brown, the deep post, but there's no safety there, and he's pissed because there's no safety. Where's the safety help? Where's the safety help? Well, what happens often is that when teams know that you're going to be running quarters coverage, they're going to try and isolate the safety, because what happens in this is just the rules of the coverage. Brenna, if you go to the next shot, if the number 2 receiver works at a certain depth, he gets vertical enough. Usually it's like 8 yards. Some teams do it like 10, but anywhere 8 to 10 yards. If he gets to a certain depth, now this becomes man-to-man for that safety, and he has to attack that route. So now he's not available to help that corner. And now it's going to be the responsibility of the opposite safety on the other side to recognize what's happening and get over the top to help out that corner. So to help out Quinyon Mitchell. So on this play, Reed Blankenship steps in front of the intermediate route. CJ Gardner-Johnson, he's there to pick things up for, if you go to the next shot, Brenna, CJ Gardner-Johnson, if this ball did go to the deep post to Terry McLaurin, who's lined up with Quinyon Mitchell, that would be CJ Gardner-Johnson's opportunity to try and pick that ball off. But like I said, Reed Blankenship steps in front of the intermediate route, and it becomes an interception. Let's go back to this play. If you go, Brenna, to the next shot, Reed Blankenship, he's the backside safety on this one, and he's immediately calling it out. Like it's a couple seconds into the play, a second into the play, and he immediately is pointing things. All right, guys, this is what's coming. And this should be the same idea where, all right, you got the deep post, Blankenship's going to cover that over the top by a certain depth. My understanding is that CJ Gardner-Johnson should be triggering on that intermediate route, that route that's right around the top of the Eagle wing there at like the 48-yard line. So he should be trying to take that route away. Now, as we can see, Cooper Rush he's like just starting to take his hand off the football to start to cock the throw. If we go to the next shot, Brenna, again, this is the route that I think that CJ Gardner-Johnson is supposed to trigger on. If that ball's thrown here to this receiver and CJ Gardner-Johnson's deep down the field, again, my understanding would be that's on CJ. Like that's how I would put that in my notes. But as the ball is starting to be thrown, Brenna, if you go to the next shot here, you can see that Cooper Rush is starting to step into this throw.
Yeah,
Gardner-Johnson's still back there waiting, and he's reading it, and he's like, yeah, he's going deep. He's going over the top here, and so he does not go on the intermediate route, and he instead. So now, from Fangio's standpoint, he may be looking at it as, hey, he read this out. He did not have to get down on that intermediate route as quickly. So he was fine with how he played this was perfectly fine. But I think that's what Dallas was thinking was, all right, this route concept, we're going to dial this up. The near safety, he's going to trigger on that intermediate route, and we're going to hit the deep post. The problem is the post was very much overthrown, and it was kind of comical. If we can go to the last shot, Brenna, 3 Eagles are closer to this than the Dallas receiver. This could have been a pick for Quinyon Mitchell. Certainly, obviously, CJ comes away with it. Blankenship's right there in the area as well. So it's one of those plays where the player that I started to think about was Asante Samuel. Going back and watching a lot of Asante Samuel's big plays and some of the interceptions that he would make. I remember plays against Eli Manning in the flat. It's the crossers coming from the opposite side, and Asante Samuel is supposed to be running with a vertical route, but he's sitting there. He's expecting that route's coming from the opposite side of the field, and he bails on that player because from tape study, from tendencies, he knows all right, that's where this ball's going.
What our coverage is, then you know where the ball has to go, and I know where the ball has to go, so I can break off what my responsibilities are, and I can get you that way.
Exactly, and so that's to me that is CJ, one of CJ's superpowers, right? Like we talk about his competitiveness and his toughness, and like that's a part of it. That ball hawking nature, like that's one of his superpowers. So if that means that, hey, you know what, like he's going to take some chances, but he's going to make plays like that, I think I didn't mean for it to come off that way on Sunday. I was like, oh man, like this was bad by CJ, but it was just more like it was. That's why all I could do was laugh. Like it's just really funny that that they were hoping to kind of get him out of position, and instead, I mean, he sat back there and was able to make the play.
Right. It's almost like, well, I mean, if it's a different quarterback and he respects the arm strength a little more, then he wants to break on that crossing route sooner. But yeah, I mean, you can just see the way where Reed Blankenship is. Like, of course, CJ is not supposed to be there, because then what would Reed Blankenship's responsibility be?
Yeah.
But interesting. All right. Quick break before we close up shop. Game Time is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. We talk about Game Time all the time. You know why? Because it's the best. And what do we talk about? We talk about the all-in pricing. We talk about the seat views. We talk about the lowest price guarantee and the Game Time ticket coverage where your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time.
Well, let's now talk about our friends at Bet365 because we know, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Bet365 has 90 million users worldwide. The Bet365 live streams 780,000 events each year. They pioneered live in-game betting, and they offer the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. They've got, right now, new customers because it's not too late. Obviously, look, we know that football season's winding down, but like I mentioned, 78 sports. You get into NBA, you can get into college hoops, you can get into baseball's around the corner. We've got hockey right now. Shout out to Brenna. You've got hockey in the Flyer season right now. New customers can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. You can use that code PHLY365 or PHLY365 to sign up, deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get $150 back in bonus bets. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. You can take advantage of the NFL, the Sunday offers, because again, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You can place a qualifying parlay on bets totaling $20 or more on Sunday's NFL games and get up to $25 in bonus bets. Download the app and use the code PHLY365 when you sign up. And you also have the early payout offer. I'm a big fan of this as well. You're a winner if your team goes up by 17 points. So there are times, hey, you know what? You pick a win, you pick somebody to win, and you feel good about it, and they get up 3 scores, and then you know what? They come back, and all of a sudden you get that backdoor cover. Well, now your team goes up by 17. You've got that ability to cash out with the early payout offer. Download the app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Last NFL season, both money lines were paid out 4 times because of that early payout and the end result in the game. So again, this applies to college football as well. You can take advantage of some of these bowl games tonight. If you feel good about Penn State, covering and beating up on Boise State, now's the time to take advantage. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. We thank Bet365 for being a presenting sponsor of the show.
Zach, I want you and Fran to do an impromptu college football playoffs draft right now. I have the 4 spreads for these games ahead of me. Okay, so Penn State, according to Bet365, 11.5-point favorites against Boise State. Texas, 12.5-point favorites against Arizona State. Ohio State, 2.5-point favorites over Oregon. And Georgia, a 1-point favorite over Notre Dame. I'm going to give you first pick. Pick which of those spreads you would be most willing to lay some hooch on. You've muted yourself.
Texas.
Ooh.
I think
wow,
Texas
I didn't see you go that
Reason
way.
why? Would you like to explain? I'm trying to give you.
Yeah, I just think. I mean, I respect what Kenny Dillingham has done at Arizona State, but I just think there's such a clear talent differential between Texas and Arizona State. I think these are 2 teams that are worlds apart on the field. I think Texas can score, and I think Texas's D is outstanding. So, yeah, I'm going Texas here.
Okay, Fran, over to you.
I would say Penn State, and then
We'll snake it. Yeah.
After that, probably Ohio State.
Ooh, Ohio State with the 2.5.
Yeah, I think so. It's the Georgia Notre Dame game is going to be really fun. That's going to be a good one tomorrow. Honestly, all 3 games I'm really excited about tomorrow. But I think that I have more trouble. I go back and forth more on Georgia and Notre Dame than I have with Ohio State, Oregon. So let's go with Ohio State and Penn State.
Okay, and Zach, you get to make the pick on Georgia Notre Dame.
Yeah, this is the hardest game of the weekend for me, or the week, I should say, because I like this Notre Dame team. I think this Notre Dame team's tough, and Georgia's obviously a machine. I don't know yet about the new quarterback, Gunnar Stockton, and I think Georgia's the better team. Notre Dame is built like an SEC team. I was really hoping I wouldn't have to pick this game. So what did you say the line was? 1.5?
By 1.
Yeah. So you're basically picking the winner here. Yeah, it's Gunnar Stockton, right?
Gunnar Stockton. Yeah. No,
yeah.
it's.
Okay.
I was going to ask. You could have inserted any name there, and Bo wouldn't have blinked. It would have been.
Okay. Yeah.
It's absolutely not.
So I am going. I guess I'll go Georgia, just because it's Georgia. But I mean, I really like what Marcus Freeman's built here at Notre Dame.
All right, there we go.
I'll go with the Fighting Out Goldens. I'll go with the Irish there. Over
there
Georgia.
you go.
Well, you get them.
Yeah.
Regardless, him taking Georgia. Yeah. What were you going to say, Zach?
I didn't want to put you in a bad spot. I didn't want to put you in a bad spot.
Me?
I was going to ask you, like, genuinely, if you could name anyone in that Georgia Texas game. Oh, I'm sorry, that Georgia Notre Dame game, rather.
Yeah, I think
besides Gunnar Stockton. Okay, good.
Stay tuned on Thursday to find out who it is that I can name.
Okay. It is. I mean, it's gonna be a fun day of football tomorrow. I will be at NovaCare, but we have a big gap in between Nick Sirianni speaking and going to practice, and so the TV the computer screen in front of me, I will have those games on.
I think Bo is like very easy to kind of decipher in terms, like, if I'm watching a game and I know, like, all right, Bo knows nothing about Georgia and Notre Dame. I could go through the key characters on both sides and be like, all right, Bo would hate this guy, Bo would love this guy, Bo would mercilessly just crush this player. I
would
think
never
he's
do that to a young man.
Yeah. But Bo would love Marcus Freeman, Zach. Like, you think that's fair?
Why? Because he's handsome.
Yeah, because he's handsome.
You know what, though? I actually don't think he would like Marcus.
Handsome.
I don't think he would like Marcus Freeman's in-game decision making. I think he would get.
That tracks,
I think if Marcus Freeman, if his looks didn't appeal to Bo, then he would, and Bo would be more critical of him.
A snack for sure.
But man, he has built a team. Like, if Brian Kelly,
and by the way, if you're watching this live on Fast and you want to catch the rest of this episode to get the stack rank of the hottest 8 coaches left in the college football playoff, go to allphly.com.
I'll say Bo would like Notre Dame for this reason. If you thought, like, Brian Kelly hit a ceiling at Notre Dame, and then there was, like, the school of thought, like, well, you'll really appreciate him when he's gone. Marcus Freeman has taken that to a higher level. Like, he's brought in better talent. And they are just, and he's also, he's manipulated. I don't want to say manipulated the system. He's mastered the system, basically, where I don't think Notre Dame, I could be wrong here, but I just think they're going to keep getting the best quarterback available in the portal in the portal every year. He's basically looked at this like he'll recruit elsewhere on the roster, and he'll get your senior quarterback from a good academic institution. Wake Forest 2 years ago, Duke last year. We'll see who it is next year. I mean, they have a good quarterback depth chart, but my guess is next year he'll get one of the top quarterbacks on the portal. A matter of fact, he might be getting Texas' starting quarterback next year. We'll see, because like Texas is this weird program where like everyone wants the backup to be the quarterback already. And I think as intriguing as Quinn Ewers might be, I think they're going to be like, please go elsewhere next year, because Arch Manning's going to be the quarterback.
See the reports, Zach, that apparently Quinn Ewers is getting offered like $6 million from schools to play. I mean, like, no brainer. He should go back for another year and take that money. Yeah,
like I really think for a lot of these college players, staying is an intriguing option, especially if you're a quarterback and you're not going to be a first round pick, or you're kind of on the borderline to be a first round pick. you should absolutely, the going rate for a starting quarterback in college football is pretty high. The player Duke, I mean, and again, these are not confirmed figures, right? It's worse than like agent reporting.
Yes,
but Duke just got Tulane's quarterback for like a huge number, and so yeah, it's pretty interesting to see. Like I know you're not a Kyle McCord fan, okay? Even though he looked awesome in the Holiday Bowl and he broke the ACC records, and he's from South Jersey. But Kyle McCord's he's pushing to get this extra year, and it makes sense for him because he's a fringe NFL player at this point. But if he comes back to Syracuse, they're like a bona fide contender in the ACC. So I do think that that the quarterback market is particularly interesting.
I just saw that. I didn't see that. They're paying him that at Duke. They're paying Mensa, the quarterback from Tulane, $8 million over 2 years.
Yes. Yeah.
I've actually never seen that where they spread it out over. They basically said that, we're going to do it for 2 years. That's the first time that's happened.
Yeah, because I said this on the show a few weeks ago that the challenge in college football now is if there's no term, if you just sign it's like worse than free agency because the guys can they can take the money and then leave the next year because you're going to start a bidding war every year basically.
There you go. All right. Let's close with
I did have a quick Eagles question for you guys. This ties into the start of the conversation here, which is you can't play everybody. And if you're Nick Sirianni, and let's take Saquon Barkley's record out of this here, or Saquon Barkley going for the record. He's one of your elite players. But if you have certain players who are like, wait, no, I want to play because I'm going to be a free agent and stats, or if you're Josh Sweat, and
I'm curious there might be somebody with an incentive.
Thing, right? or that type of thing. I saw like Zach Ertz got a lot. CJ Gardner-Johnson just got a lot of money from the incentives in his deal. But if you're Josh Sweat and you're sitting at 8 sacks and you have an inviting matchup against the Giants this weekend, and also you want to show that you can play 17 games, you want to try to get to maybe 10 sacks, right? Like it might behoove you to try to play for a half or something like that. You're already down depth at that position. If you're Zach Bond and you're a pending free agent, you're at 150 tackles, 5+ forced fumbles, like all this stuff. I know teams look at the tape, but they also rationalize things based on numbers too. Or you want more of a sample size. You want more stats. Devontae's not at that point where he's too far from 1,000-yard season, so it doesn't make sense there. He would need like 170 yards. But point being, if a guy wants to play, and you're Nick Sirianni, are you willing to have that conversation?
It completely depends on who it is. Sure. I would not let Josh Sweat play. But I think if there are like guys who are like super close to an incentive, now you might also have, if it's an incentive deal, Howie Roseman can call down and say we're going to pay it out anyway if it's that close. But I think you got to make the decision based on what's best for the team and make your playing time decisions from there.
Agreed. Yeah. No notes.
Very quickly, Fran, a couple of things. How did Trotter Jr. look to you?
I thought he was solid. Yeah, he look. There are times where he can get stuck on blocks, but he also had a couple times where I thought there was a play early on. I think it was his first series where he and Zach Bond both at the same time took on the block, got off, and met at the ball carrier. Like he had some nice moments. Nothing to the point where I'm like, they should start mixing him in more. But I would say probably the brightest spot I've seen from him this season would be in this game.
Okay. Well, less about mixing him in and more about now Oren Burks forced a fumble.
Future, yeah.
But if a guy goes down in the playoffs, Burks or Trotter Jr., who would you trust?
I think you would probably still go Burks just because this goes back to the Kenny Pickett thing. He's been there, done that, and I think at this point, at that position especially, I think you'd probably lean in more into the guy that's done it a little bit. Just because Trotter has just played so little this year, I feel like you'd probably want to lean into the experience that Oren Burks does have.
You were asked in the Discord about a lot of open wide receivers on defense,
that's right.
Which not necessarily tracked with what you thought, but you had something to add here.
Yeah, Brenna, if you just pull up open wide receiver. This is a quick one. So it was asked from the Discord, can you break down why it seems the Eagles secondary is leaving guys wide open in coverage? There were 4 catches. There were 5 catches of over 10 yards in the game. None over 20. Actually, no, there was 1 for over 20. It was a double move from Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks got open for 2 catches. One was an outstanding route on the opening drive against Slay, went for 16. Another was a double move against Slay where Slay slipped and grabbed him. That was the penalty that they ended up not enforcing. Quinyon Mitchell gave up 2 catches on like stop routes, and that's kind of what I wanted to show here. We've talked about what the Eagles like to do, especially on third down. Well, they'll play cover 6, where Brenda, if you go to the next shot, where in cover 6, you're going to basically rotate coverage where the safety on the one side is going to start looking over the other way, and you leave the corner on the backside isolated, and it's basically one-on-one for that corner. In this situation, it's Quinyon Mitchell. And basically, if you're that corner, you are trying to prevent, you're playing inside out. So you're preventing in-breaking routes. You don't want to play, you're trying to protect over the top so you don't get beat deep. If you go to the next shot, there's only one spot. There's only really one route that's going to beat you, and it's like a stop or a comeback route. I mean, Quinyon Mitchell's in perfect position here on this play. Like he's hip to hip with the receiver. The ball is thrown at this point. You can see that Cooper Rush has already let go of the football, and there was I think this was Jalen Brooks did a good job of just kind of throwing the brakes on last minute. And he climbs the ladder and makes a great catch along the sideline. Goes for 12 yards and a first down. He gave him up another one to Jonathan Mingo that was on the same exact situation, same coverage, same idea. That's the catch you're going to give up. There is no perfect coverage, and so I think we've gotten a little spoiled in terms of what what wide open looks like and guys looking open. The Eagles have been one of the best this year at preventing these chunk plays, and in this game they didn't give up explosives like we saw a week ago. They gave up a handful of catches that went for 15 yards, 12 yards.
Okay. Now we can say, Fran, we're excited that this week, based on the suggestion we had earlier, instead of breaking down the Giants for the opponent preview, you're going to break down the Eagles.
Yeah, so it's that document is well underway. I'll have that ready for Thursday.
I'm excited about that. That'll be fun.
So it'll be a scouting report on the Eagles roster and the depth are going into the postseason. So nothing Giants related on that. It'll be all be about the Eagles and where they stand going into the playoffs.
Zach Super Chat from Chase Daniel Plainview, who wants to know if Vic Fangio and Drew Lock are going to catch up after this game.
Yeah, that didn't end well, if memory serves. Is that right?
I don't know. I mean, he got fired, so.
Yeah. Well, he got Drew Lock got benched.
Lock got benched, yeah.
Yeah. I imagine actually, Fangio's upstairs, so unless they catch up pregame,
yeah, true.
There won't be one of those post-game handshakes.
How do you guys feel about the Mormon Missile? A lot of talk in the chat about the Mormon Missile.
If his teammates are calling him that, yeah. So I don't know. Do you disagree? Do you not like it?
I don't feel strongly. I have a kindred spirit. Feel closely to the Mormons because our championship-winning softball team, our captain, his name is Joe Mormon.
So that's why you have a kindred spirit.
So yes, okay. And so we named the team Batter Day Saints.
Nice,
thank you. So yeah, I feel a little bit of a connection. Brought home a ring. Only one.
Zach obviously has never seen the Book of Mormon because he would never.
I have seen the Book of Mormon. That's what. Yeah, it's from the South Park creators, right?
Yeah,
is that right? Yeah, I went. I was living up in Hoboken in 2011, covering the Giants, and I went with my brother and his college roommate, and my mom came up. Yeah, it took that because it was supposed to be like a comedy. I actually heard someone told me recently there's a John Mulaney play or musical in New York right now that was recommended to me that I would like to see.
That's
know what that is, Mo?
Do you think that was the last musical you saw?
Musical? No, I mean I've seen some with Emily, and it's just not my speed, honestly. But I'm happy to go because she's a wonderful wife. But she loves musicals. I don't mind plays. We went to New York. We saw the Larry David play that they had. That was actually pretty funny.
But then you
What's
were
that?
disappointed by his appearance in Philadelphia.
Yeah, but that wasn't a play. I mean, that wasn't a play. That was just a conversation in conversation with. But no, I'm trying to think. The last musical I saw. It's been some time. Honestly, if I'm being honest, she's gone more with friends or
She knows, yeah.
Yeah, she knows.
Now, Fran, do you want to get into what happened last night? Can we get angry at somebody, or you don't want to?
No, actually, there's actually nothing to necessarily be angry about. Basically, I was cooking dinner and there was a knock on my door, and a young gentleman accidentally clipped my car as he was driving by. I was parked out front. Nothing crazy, but he was kind enough to stop and exchange info. Like it could have been way worse. So yeah, nothing to be upset about from that.
Young
standpoint.
gentleman, like a teenage driver.
No, a little bit older, but young 20s.
Now, did you reflect on where you were parked? Were you far from the curb? Did you take any onus on yourself, or this was all just this guy not paying attention?
Yeah, I would say more the latter. But yeah, no, it was fine. It was it's more just like, all right, I got to go through the whole
the headache. But
exactly.
But glad that the guy owned up to it. That's good.
And nothing crazy like damage wise. So no,
just like a little scrape or what?
Yeah, we were talking like some scrapes and scuffs and stuff like that.
Okay, it could have been worse.
Could have been worse. Yes.
Okay. All right, Zach. Close us out with what is your New Year's resolution for 2025?
I mean, this sounds cliche, but I always answer, if there's something that you feel strongly about, then you should start doing it right away. You shouldn't wait until New Year's. But for the purpose of the fact that we've had the conversation, and there's there's a handful of things that I said. I can be more organized in like my non-work life. That's something that I would do. Emily runs a home organization business, so like she likes things very tidy. So if I have the laundry piling up, or if I'm sitting at my desk here and I have this can of seltzer that should have been disposed of yesterday from working late last night, so things like that. So that's one of the resolutions. There's recommendations for resolutions that I need to kind of find compromises on, she thinks my sleep is an issue. I've been frustrated recently about some of my show performances. I have a list of things that I want to improve on the show, and one of the things is, without getting into too many details, I wasn't speaking clearly on a recent show. I was stammering too much, and she says, "Yeah, you're not sleeping. That's related to your lack of sleep."
She's right.
And so, and then there's other things that I can improve with the show. There's things I can improve with my articles. Making sure that I maintain the gym regimen. It's easy to say that it's the playoffs, I'm busy,
good job. Yeah,
that kind of thing. So I need to make sure that I stick to the regimen. So things like that. Would you guys care to share any of your New Year's resolutions?
I mean, I haven't had as prolonged a conversation about it as you have. One thing I would like to read more fiction in the year 2025.
Why that?
I just, every time I read a book, I'm happy I'm reading a book, but it's hard to convince myself to do that when there are so many other options. I would like to read more fiction in 2025.
Yeah, for me, I'm like I'm not a big New Year's resolution guy. Like I'm usually like, all right, like if I'm going to make a change, I'm going to make it. It's like wait until the bye week to make changes.
Yeah,
I'll start right away. So I don't have anything big and overpowering there. Oh, I probably.
So
should.
Zach, you won't accept. You need to sleep better. You need to find a compromise for that.
Well, yeah, because I'm not going to agree to be asleep by this time.
Like an actual parameter.
She's like, be in bed by this time. And no, I simply will not agree to that, because the people I don't want to say my competition, my colleagues on the beat, they're not in bed at that time. Like, so yeah, I'm excited for the month ahead. I'm gonna have some great stuff coming up this month ahead. And I don't want to put a limit on myself.
What about naps? Are naps an option?
No,
You can't nap.
no, definitely not. Definitely not. That's been another conversation piece, but no, I'm not napping.
Could you sleep in a little bit more?
I think it would be on the other side of it. I think I would go to bed earlier because I do my best work in the mornings, honestly. And I love being with the kids in the mornings. We have like great conversations in the morning. So if I can wake up an hour earlier to work and therefore go to bed an hour earlier. Yeah.
Question from Nick Field. He wants to know, how do you know when your competitors are sleeping?
Or I shouldn't say. I guess it's just something I've always thought about.
Live, don't you?
I always thought about it in my head. Like, you know, is Tim McManus working on this? Is Jeff McClain working on this? Is it EJ, Olivia? Like, you go on down the list. You know, and so I'm Dave Z. There's so many good people, and then you go nationally. I mean,
Uh-oh. Zach's asleep.
His first nap. Tough framing.
Sorry.
All right.
You know, no. You know what I did there?
Oh, there he is.
I was speaking so passionately there that I kicked the Ethernet out of the. I kicked the Ethernet. No, but it's always the expression that, you know, Kobe used to say, like, you know, if you're not in the gym, someone else is, and so that's kind of the way I view it. If I'm not working on it, someone else is. You know, there's an expression, you're either writing it or you're reading it, and I feel strongly about that.
Okay. Well, that'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. A happy New Year to all of the sickos. We will talk to you on Thursday, 2:00. We should figure out a different format for that show, because I don't think we need to go deep into, presuming that we find out the Eagles are not going to play their players. I don't think we need to go deep into that matchup. So maybe we can do something a little bit different as a playoff look ahead for that show on Thursday. And, of course, the return of Swooper.
Well, maybe in the spirit of Fran's breakdown, we can do a player by player, a look of, you know, how this guy did this year going into the playoffs.
Yeah. It's a good idea.
New Year's resolution for every player on the 53.
Yeah, now we're talking.
That'd be a long show.
Aren't they all?
Yeah.
All right. That'll do it for this episode. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. Thanks to Brenna for stepping in. We will talk to you on Thursday. And as always, we love you.